absolute pleasure to introduce you to Michael Casey and Lou Kerner, our hosts this evening, and of course, the illustrious Brad Garlinghouse as our special VIP guest. So let me hand it over to Lou to start off the evening. Thank you all for being with us.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. I'm Lou Kerner. Yes. We're also, can you tell them what you want? So thanks, everybody. This is a pop-up Crypto Mondays. For those of you who don't know what Crypto Mondays is, meetup started January 2018. And we're now in 77 cities around the world. It's just basically people getting together, yapping about crypto. When I started it, I had no speakers, because most of the time there's a speaker. I really wish they'd speak. It turns out you get more people if you have speakers, so we keep the speaking to a half hour. 20 minutes of questions from me, 10 minutes of questions from you. You want to ask some more, hopefully Brad will stick around a little bit. And then I'm also joined, have the pleasure of being joined by Michael Casey from CoinDesk. Michael, you want to say hello?
Well, first of all, hi. I love the way that Davos is all random. Just landed. I wasn't sure I was going to make it. We're here. Happy to be here. This man's going to be consensus, and I'm using it as an excuse to tell you that you all need to come to consensus June 9th to 12th in Austin. First time we're going out back in person after 2 years of a festivity format. It's going to be huge. I need to be there.
Okay, so if people want to yap, that's great. There's plenty. You can yap outside. It's not raining, plenty of room. But if you're going to stay inside, it can be quite good. If you're yapping, it makes it hard for the people here to hear. But anyways, so look, obviously the biggest thing to happen in crypto over the last little while was the collapse of Luna. So why don't we just start there? Where does that, how do you put that into context for us? By the way, let's everybody give them a big round of applause.
I'll start by putting the Luna thing in context by saying I did get a tattoo. I got a tattoo 2 weeks ago. I got a tattoo of the Kansas Jayhawk for winning the national championship. I would not get a tattoo of Luna. I respect that my Novographs decided to do that. I do have a tattoo of the Ripple logo over here, though. But putting it in context, I'm going to give Lou the credit. He said something to me before we started talking. Some people are calling the Luna overall debacle a Ponzi scheme. And he said something I thought was actually really insightful, which is it's not a Ponzi scheme. And it's not a Ponzi scheme because he did exactly what he said he was going to do. A Ponzi scheme is when you're lying about what you're doing, and you're playing a pyramid scheme, but you're lying. The whole UST Luna experience, he published a white paper, said, here's what I'm going to do, and he went and did it. So look, my general view of what happened the last couple weeks, clearly we've been through some market resets over time. I view it as probably net good for the industry in the long haul, but certainly painful in the short.
And so, so where do you think that puts you then with regards to the SEC? That's obviously a major issue.
So I don't think it's good. So the SEC, obviously, for those of you here, I imagine are largely familiar with the fact the SEC sued Ripple, they sued me, they sued Chris Larson, with the assertion that XRP is a security and our sales in XRP registered the sale or sometimes shoot securities. The SEC in their mission statement says them back to protect investors. The irony of the lawsuit towards Ripple and towards the overall XRP community is you have XRP holders who are trying to create a class action to sue the SEC. Because by suing Ripple, they actually hear the price of XRP go way down. At the same time it's going on, you have to ask yourself, well, why isn't the SEC paying attention to things that actually might take investors, because I'm not sure investors really understood, despite the white paper being public, there's certainly a lot that are hurt by the UST and Luna law.
So you're still, though, obviously not still the number 6 from a market cap, and that's called for floating. So you guys, talk about kind of the roadmap. kind of where you're at and where you see your roadmap going forward.
So one thing I'll correct quickly because we're talking about this. Ripple and XRP are separate things. So XRP, the XRP ledger pre-existed the formation of Ripple, the company. But we often get conflated because we're a very interested party in the success of the XRP ecosystem. Like, Ripple from its earliest days focused on a clear use case where we think we can use XRP as a very efficient, very scalable, very low cost digital asset. We've been selling it to banks, and we were talking about this also earlier. This is, I think, my fourth year here at Davos. The first year I was here, I remember I was walking into the Belvedere Hotel and ran into somebody I knew, and they said, "I'm surprised you're here. Crypto is still a bad word here at Davos." Well, times have changed. I don't think that's true anymore here, and that's partly because I think people have focused on utility and solving real-world problems. Ripple focused on this cross-border payment solution. Have hundreds of banks, billions of dollars of transactions. About 40% of the volume that we process goes through XRP. And that has grown dramatically in the last year. And COVID, in some ways, being a different experience for Lexus. Certainly is good for Ripple's business. Really, headwind of consequence in the United States is very critical because we can certainly see most customers in the United States who are going to be on standby until there's closure and resolution and that regulatory clarity that we want to have.
Well, it can't come soon enough, obviously, to the market. But, the question I love asking CEOs is, what are the major metrics of Ripple that you're focused on when you wake up in the morning? What is it that you're looking at?
The number one metric we think about is volume of transactions, both unique transactions and dollar value of transactions, emotional value. I'd say the third metric I probably think about is our hiring. We are growing very quickly. We're adding 350 people this year. We did manage to hire 8 months.
How many are you at now?
We're about 600 people right now.
So we're by like 60%.
Yeah. So we started about 600% this year in the headcount. We hope to be in here around 850. We're trying to make most of that hiring non-US. About 95% of our customers and 95% of the volume is non-US. I think that 95% of volume is going to be.
If you have to give geographically.
Our typical geographic, I'd say 2 areas have a lot of growth. Certainly the Middle East, we have a lot of remittance markets, and Southeast Asia. The other thing that happened, it kind of came out of Davos years ago. We were lucky and smart, I think, to develop a relationship with some of the central bankers in the Middle East. The UAE as well as Saudi Arabia monetary authority. When you have central bankers advocating that their commercial banks should, hey, you should look at this. They live, the ability to advance these kind of crypto is a bad word. So that type of dynamic has certainly helped. We leaned in early to let's engage regulators. I think that was controversial, like some in the crypto, but in some ways maybe it backfired because that's just they sued us. But in general, I think it's going to serve us well.
Is, obviously, how we interact with the government as a community is so important. About how you work with Coin Center and other lobbies.
My honest answer is we don't work with Coin Center. I think one of the things holding crypto back, and actually the reason I want an audience like this to pay attention, the tribalism of crypto is a huge problem. The religiosity, people who think it's a single chain world, it's a multi-chain world. There's going to be a lot of winners. And my experience with Coin Center is driving. We did a debate though, but I think it's actually holding the whole industry back. There's so many people in Washington. I probably named 5 different trade associations in Washington encrypting. That's not good. We need to work for peacefulness so that when you're voting onto topical mode, they're doing single messages because the nuance of what we all understand about crypto doesn't get translated well to
Now you're hitting on a topic that I find like one of the most complicated of all. One is we the media find it particularly difficult, right? Because each of these tokens has a tribe behind it, and you've got this sort of like absolute, completely coherent group that believes in one thing. It's like we're monetizing ownership. which can be really good for us in monetizing action, but it means that there is a sort of very singular blind rule of truth. The number of times that I've been attacked by the XRP army, for example, is very effective and trap, right? And it's just, so where do you guys find out? You'll need to work this out. The two. The XRP army is a huge platform if you read this agreement. So how do you do it?
You know, the XRP army is clearly an passionate, very passionate group of people who I think have recognized some of the differences in XRP and other crypto. But as a member of the XRP off-chain account myself, I believe strongly in a multi-chain world. Like I've said very publicly, I own Bitcoin, I own ETH, I own a couple others. I'm not of the mind that like XRP is going to win it. Everything's, there's going to be different use cases and different specialties, and XRP is extremely efficient for certain use cases. There's other use cases where it probably doesn't make sense. That's okay. But I do think that the tribalism, I think tribalism in crypto should be a bad word. Everybody, I think,
Woo! Yes!
All right. I want to support other cryptos. I was on some media this morning. I started like, I have no vested interest in Garlinghouse. It's an interesting use case, and I certainly don't think in any ways that this XRP and my Ripple is doing competitive. So let's all support each other. All votes get right.
And it's really hard to take the counter. But we can't take the counter of that because, for me personally, hey, shut the. Okay, that's it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We're now at the point we want to quieten down the crowd. So, I like to ask questions for 20 minutes, and I like to let the audience ask questions for 10 minutes. So I'm sorry?
Just gonna say one thing.
Yes.
Guys, I appreciate all of your attention. If you could please stop talking while these incredibly important influencers in the crypto industry are here. You have no idea how many years it has taken to have West members that are crypto companies and crypto leaders. These guys are white badge holders. They are members of the World Economic Forum. This is the first year ever. This is the first year ever crypto companies and crypto journalists that are official World Economic Forum members. And that is one of the most exciting things that has ever happened. We've been working on this for 5 years. All right. Congratulations to you, Michael, and thank you for leading this industry to global adoption. So everyone, please listen to every word they have to say because it's very important. Thank you.
Thanks. I just want to pick up on that. It's like a pretty thing. I literally totally forgot I had it on because it is a weird dynamic. I just want to talk about this, right? So, in fact, we've seen some of the promotions of CoinDesk activity here, and there was a classic Twitter response that said, "Oh my God, they're partnering with the globalists," But the way that's really kind of interesting about the structure here is that most of the crypto activity runs down the promenade, almost as a launch pad into the gates, right? And you heard the story of the barbarians in the gate, right? The barbarians. So it's just like a Trojan horse type of thing, right? Exactly. But I heard a funny line I thought was pretty clever today. You guys probably, a lot of you would be listeners to it, an excellent podcast called Thankless, right?
Yeah. I'm a member.
You guys are all the bachelors.
Thanks for pointing it out.
So look, before I turn it over to the other side, would be interested. So what are you here trying to achieve?
About half of my meetings here are with regulators, central bankers, finance ministers, and about how our customers, either existing or prospects. And I will emphasize, I do think, I used this example earlier, like 4 years ago, somebody said to me that crypto's a bad word in Davos. And that is just not true today. And it isn't just because of people like us who have a white badge, it's because all of us are out there evangelizing, not just the crazy speculative stuff. No, these are real solutions solving real problems. And I think the more we continue hammering that home, the more we'll be accepted as actually part of it. We are improving the world. Like the whole point around Web, I can't remember the timeline, was something about improving the world for everyone.
The state of the world.
The state of the world, thank you. I should know that as a white badge, I guess. I think all of us probably got into this industry in one way or another because we thought we actually make the world a better place by using these technologies. All right, we're open to questions.
Yeah. So I'm happy to continue with some questions if nobody has a question, but I will open it up to the audience for questions going once. Anybody raise their hand if you got a question?
So, as a founder, I think a lot of people only see what you present to the world because you have a responsibility in a professional sense to maintain a certain decorum. What's one thing you would say privately to this room about yourself that might humanize you a little bit? Because I think there's people that might have a perception of you based on whatever the perception is you have to present. So what would be something that you would share with the crypto community, the badgeless today?
The tattoo story doesn't count? That was the truth. By the way, this isn't just sharing. This is being live streamed out somewhere. So, I don't know. Let's see. What? Like, I admit that, like, when I come to these events, yes, I wear a suit and tie because I'm playing that part. More than one person who I knew in the conference center, like, you're a crypto guy. Why are you wearing a suit and tie? Well, like, I want to meet the central bankers where they are. And I want them, if I show up in a hoodie, like, I like hoodies, but I think if we want to have an impact, we want to be accepted and heard. We have to play that role with somebody here. I'm very excited to take off this suit and tie as soon as possible. It's really fucking hot.
Guys, thank you for coming. Appreciate you, Brady, putting this on. A couple questions about CBDCs and where you feel like their role plays in like an evolution of decentralized assets. Which governments do you think that you've been talking to, one, are interested in CBDCs, and are they only interested in controlling them as like self-contained units that cannot transport their value to other networks?
So the timing of that question is really good. The last session I went to in the Congress Center for Congress was a session on CBDCs. I'm going to forget everyone's names, but one of the central bankers from Thailand, the woman who runs the IMF, just going across, then a gentleman who's on the board of Credit Suisse, and then the finance minister from France. And one thing that was interesting, I was sitting next to a guy who's very deep in crypto named Glenn Hutchins, and he says, you know what's interesting? They don't have anyone out there who knows anything about crypto. Now, I'm not sure that's 100% true. They had a really interesting, big conversation. I'm sure you've seen some of the data. Apparently 90% of central banks are researching digital assets, CBDCs in one way or another. Ripple has done partnerships with a couple of countries, and certainly ones, it's an area we are developing. I'm still personally a little bit quizzical, maybe to humanize me. Some of the use cases for CBDCs are a little bit quizzical to me, and I don't know that I've ever talked about this publicly, but the case for a US dollar CBDC is really unclear to me, right? You think about today, the Fed has a journal entry and they move $1 billion over to JPM. I mean, that was just a journal entry. They didn't move pallets of money. So, like, what's the difference between that and then, of course, JPM distributes it they distribute a digitized dollar, right? It's not tokenized necessarily, but what's the difference between a digitized dollar and a tokenized dollar? Do we need a CBDC in a country like the United States? I don't know. They did talk about the retail case versus the wholesale case. The retail case being direct to consumer, and they did talk about how that could disintermediate commercial banks. Look, some countries, I'll say something controversial. Should it surprise any of us that China is the first country to lean into a CBDC? Right. A surveillance state that wants to see what its citizens are up to. 128 million people in China who are part of their test. 120 million people, that's not much of a test. Like, Jesus. Maybe that's a good thing, but it's also, I think, indicative of maybe some of the agendas that some people have in the CBDC that I think is, yet to be determined.
But, again, not to push back, but isn't the U.S. pretty much a surveillance state as well? Isn't everything?
I don't argue with that at all. I mean, I was on a panel at WEP earlier today, and we talked about one of the panelists said something about permissionless, that you needed to be able to have permissionless systems. Look, I like the tribalism point. One of the biggest mistakes I think the crypto community makes in the United States and other G20 markets is pretending regulators don't matter. This idea that we're going to have a permissionless system in the United States, I wouldn't use the same words, but I largely agree with you. We can't pretend KYC doesn't matter. We may not like it, We may not like the fact that, all kinds of different government regulations, but they exist. And if we want these technologies to permeate this system and have as many people benefit from them as possible, we have to acknowledge those regulations and figure out how to work with them. Now, what's frustrating, of course, is when the regulations aren't clear. I think most actors in the crypto world are very good actors and want to do right, but you have to be clear about where the lines in the road are.
I'm going to have to run in a second, and my colleagues would kill me if I didn't press questions. So I'm going to. And maybe it's just to sort of summarize what Ripple's position is in its response to the SEC suit. And specifically, I think there's this issue that you control a lot of the unissued XRP. It came out of Ripple in the first place. The idea that this was your project, right? And that ultimately, therefore, price is something that you could manage. So, what do you say to that?
If I could control the price of XRP, would it be at 42 cents? It's just a silly, comment out there. That I look at what's happening with the SEC, and one thing you did say, which is actually not true. The XRP ledger, so you can go look at the California State Registry. Ripple as a company was incorporated in Q4 of 2012. The XRP ledger started liquidity 6 months before that. Ripple did not issue XRP. We can debate all those things. We've written blog posts on it, all those things. There's several things to do with it. Well, we do not shy away from the fact that we care a lot about the health of the XRP ecosystem, but the idea in a series of ICOs that kind of, I'll say we've plagued 2017, 2018. Ripple did a seed round. We did a Series A, we did a Series B, we did a Series C. The fact that the SEC chose to go after, to me, the XRP community, it's like one of these things doesn't fit the other. And look, I think the case over the last 18 months, while slow and frustrating, the SEC keeps trying to delay things. Gary Gensler is on record as saying, justice delayed is justice denied, yet they are delaying us at every single step. But it also, it's clear the judge involved understands some of the nuances here, and I feel good about how it's going.
And even when you get through this, what happens next? I mean, how does this impact, hanging over the heads of the NFT community, your capacity to act on the bill?
Well, I mean, we have one arm behind our back here in the United States. Outside the United States, I said earlier, the vast majority of our customers are non-U.S., the vast majority of the activity is non-U.S. In some ways, I got misquoted on this publicly once, so hopefully now that it's streamed, I can't get misquoted. But right now, Ripple and the whole XRP ecosystem is living in a world as if we already have laws. Think about it. XRP, for all intents and purposes, doesn't trade in the United States. I think Uphold is the only exchange that allows trading of XRP. It was halted or delisted with lots of other exchanges. We basically, Ripple, the company, selling contracts in the United States is an uphill battle because of the SEC. So I'm already living in a world that we lost the case. And yet we're still thriving as a company. We had a record year last year. We had a record Q1. Volume using our primary product of ODL grew 800% quarter Q1 to Q1. That's the worst case. I think the facts and the law, I think, are very much on our side. And I think coming out of this, it's going to be good for the entire crypto ecosystem because there will be clarity and certainty. XRP is not a security, nor is a whole bunch of other stuff. Gary Gensler was in front of Congress last week saying he thinks everything but Bitcoin is a security. And I think people didn't realize when the SEC sued Ripple that this really was an attack on all of crypto. And I think people have come to realize how important it is this case goes well for everyone for crypto.
Yeah, and unfortunately.
I just want to follow up on that. Thank you so much, Brad. I've been honored for the past 4 years to work on U.S. congressional committees for blockchain, fintech, and digital innovation in the state of Wyoming with Caitlin Long and all of the team that has been working there. And we wrote the first law that said digital assets are intangible personal property. And there has been some follow-up with the IRS on that. The SEC took some concerns with that, but the FTC and the DFTC haven't fully come out differently. Now, while we are waiting for the results of the White House executive order, where do you think personally that some of this federal legislation might go?
So there's something called the Digital Commodity Exchange Act, which was reintroduced in the House Ag Committee about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Everyone here, look up who's on the Ag Committee and send money to people and tell them to support the DCEA. The DCEA really is about, these are commodities. The CFTC should be the regulative consequence of the United States. I think it is a very appropriate piece of legislation for the entire crypto community. It has bipartisan support. It's D's and R's are supporting this. We need to get Congress behind it and really pushing it forward.
Okay, hey, everybody, let's give him a big hand. A, for what he's doing for the community. A big time.